I need to talk to you about fake science. Well, I guess this isn't really fake science, but instead how real science is used incorrectly. We live in an age where science gets thrown around all the time. You all love your science, don't you? You make me sick. That's why today I'm going to talk about 3 types of scientific research papers that get misused by people claiming it to be quote-unquote hard science, when in fact these people either don't understand what they're reading or they just want to sell you something. So let's jump right in. First, let's talk about case reports. Case reports typically examine a single patient or group in a particular event in time. These are observations and should be considered anecdotal evidence. Since there's no requirement on testing multiple subjects, having a control group, or examining different variables, these studies shouldn't hold much weight as concrete proof. Here's an example of a case report. A patient with chronic migraines may come into the doctor's office after having some of their symptoms relieved. The doctor may examine the subject's eating habits and find that they've been eating more broccoli and other foods high in vitamin K. They'll write a case report on the observation, and people may think, wow, vitamin K cures migraines. This is backed by science. Or you'll see, try my new product. It has 500% of the recommended vitamin K in a day. Case reports are very important in the field of science because they can introduce things and lead towards further examination, but they shouldn't be thought of as strong scientific evidence. In vitro studies are laboratory trials and experiments that are often referred to as test tube studies. In vitro means in glass in Latin, and they're used to test cells or molecules or whatever in controlled environments. They're a little bit better than case reports since they can provide more concrete data, but still don't provide definite answers. Testing isolated cells inside the setting often misses how they react in their normal environments. It's like, wow, we poured Gatorade on this cancer cell and the cancer cell died. Does Gatorade cure cancer? It's a good way to test variables, but it requires further testing in the normal, more complex environment. You would need to test Gatorade on cancer cells in the human body to see if it actually gets affected and doesn't cause further problems to the rest of the body. Cross-sectional studies are observational research that collect data from communities or populations in order to better understand some variables' effects. They're useful for early research and general surveillance, but shouldn't be used to draw hard conclusions from. Now, I don't feel like I have to say more on this study, so I'm not going to. Instead, check out this cool drawing I made. Now that we've talked about how certain studies get misused without concrete data, let's take a look at studies that hold a lot of weight in the science community. Randomized control trials are really strong scientific studies that are great for evaluating the effectiveness of some kind of treatment or intervention. How most randomized control trials work is they split test subjects into 2 groups, an experimental group and a control group. The experimental group are the real test subjects who receive the treatment or product or whatever. The control group does not receive the treatment and will instead receive a placebo so that test subjects don't know what group they're in. This allows the experimenters to directly compare the effects of the treatment. The key factor in this is to make sure there are no confounding variables among test subjects. This means independent variables that may influence the experiment. The groups should be as similar as possible. An example of this would be an experiment to find out what the most popular cuisine among New Yorkers is, and only use test subjects who live in primarily Italian districts. The control and experimental groups are what makes this a strong type of evidence. There are direct comparisons to draw from, and with a large enough group of participants, a lot of evidence can be made. Systematic reviews and meta-analyses are not so much experiments as carefully condensed research reviews. They examine multiple papers and studies published on a particular topic to draw more informed conclusions. Meta-analyses differ from systematic reviews since they use statistical methods to synthesize datasets from other studies to provide more precise estimations. Granted that the methods of the study are reputable. And it makes sense that you would want someone to investigate the investigators and correct them if they're wrong or see why different studies lead to different outcomes. This is a strong type of paper because any one study can be compromised. Examining multiple studies provides more validity. Now, in the end, you can really find a study out there to support whatever claim you want, but knowing the differences between these studies may help you think twice before trusting some sources. And the worst thing you can do is trust and listen to YouTubers. YouTubers are some of the worst people around who have no accountability in what they say. They should get real jobs and actually contribute to society. Anyways, I based this video on the hierarchy of scientific evidence, so if this is a topic that you want to look into further, I suggest starting there. And as always, thanks for watching.